Um, today, Patricia, hey Mara, hey Jessica, hey James. I was thinking that what we could do is, if you guys have questions, I have my cards out, and I actually have my astrology program over there, and because I don't know if I can do it while I'm not sure. Let me see if I can. Um, if I can kind of open it up here because I'm doing everything on my computer right now. So I'm not sure. I don't want to kind of mess up the live stream. But hey, Ruth Ann, um, we can see you the whole time. Okay. All right. I wasn't sure. It was like saying that it was loading, loading, loading. And you guys weren't, it was connecting. So, all right. That's funny. Well, got a little peek behind the curtain there. Okay. So I was thinking, there's, I don't even know what to talk about. There's so much insanity going on, and we're kind of in this weird lull period where, uh, you know, the news seems to be mostly about the Epstein files. Hey, Catherine. Hey, Lori. Hey, Luminary. Um, it's mostly about all the insanity in there, and we just don't. Hey, Kevin. Hey, Kevin. And we don't really know. Pulling apart all of these threads, like what's right and what's wrong and what's real and what's not. Nancy, hey, they flooded the zone. Hey, Christine, have questions. What is the symbol of a fish appearing in the page of the cards? In the page of cards, a fish. Um, can you clarify that, Christine? Are you talking about it? Is it on literally, or did you see a symbol of a fish appearing in the page of cards? Like, were you reading and then you saw it and then it popped out at you? Like, oh, sorry, cups. Page of cards. Oh, page of cups. I knew you were talking about cups actually, but okay, you're talking about the symbol that is actually that's part of the little fish coming out of the cup. Okay, so a long time ago, you're able to sense how the kidnapping of Nancy will go. That is a really good question. That's uh okay. So I'll answer Christine's question first. So a long time ago, when I was reading cards, right, but then I started working at this psychic place where there's a bunch of psychics, and they had these guys who were called the Brotherhood of Light come and teach us, uh, sort of the secret things about the tarot. And one of the things about the tarot that a lot of people don't know, it was that it was put together by some of the people that were in the Golden Dawn, and so because it had all of this sacred kind of, people took vows of secrecy. Some of the cards were reversed in their meaning. All right, and so the page of cups, which you would think would be, maybe you would think uh, naturally. So there's a couple of things that are kind of weird about it. One is that the Earth and the air sign court cards are reversed, and also that you would think it would start with, in terms of the water sign meanings of each of the court cards, that page would be the first water sign, right? Which would be Cancer, then it would be Scorpio, and then it would be Pisces. But in actuality, that's reversed as well. So that the meaning of the Page of Cups is actually Pisces. So that's a Pisces male, female. If it's right side up, it's supposed to be a male Pisces. If it's reversed, it's a female Pisces. So the actual fish coming out of the Page of Cups is a reference to the Pisces thing. So there's little clues in there, but that's the clue, basically, that it's representing of a Pisces. Does that make sense? I hope. France raided Musk's Paris office and took equipment. That'd be interesting to peek at. Okay. Um, greetings, soul sisters and soul brothers. Hey, Kevin. Um, okay, yeah. So there's a couple other things like I said, you'll see that all of the swords and all of the pentacles are actually opposite. So you think pentacles would naturally be earth sign people, right? Because that's pentacles represent earth, and that air sign, all the air, the swords would be air sign people. So think of it in reverse. So it's very weird, but uh, once you start to look at the cards, you can see the clues. Like I think in the King of Swords, there's a little image of a Taurus kind of little representation on the throne. That's actually a Taurus male. So at some point, maybe I'll do a post about or kind of explain some of that stuff, the stuff that's kind of jumbled up for that purpose. So if you're interested in the show, I can kind of do that. Okay, so yeah, so let's just do questions because I, there are so many things going on, and I don't. I feel like the zone has been so flooded with this Epstein stuff that and it's so perverted and over the top that uh and it's beyond believable. I mean, if you're a normal human, it's just mind-boggling, right? There's a guy who somebody sent me his videos who's a game theory professor who kind of talks about this. I mean, he's Chinese, and I mean, so he's coming from outside of the culture, so it's kind of an interesting perspective. But his theory about why people who are super wealthy, why there would be this all these bizarre kind of, I guess, vile things that they do together. In other words, if they all participate in these heinous acts together, then it creates a bond of sort of like a criminal bond, kind of, when you join a gang, you have to shoot someone to be part of the gang. So if you partake of all these horrible things together, then you're not, and then you have compromise on each other. And so his theory is that you see that a lot in cabals of powerful people, these really heinous kind of antisocial acts, so that when you find out, you know, so A and B can both sort of bond in that heinous act, and therefore, if A says, "I'm gonna go after B," well, you can't because I've got all the goods on you, and if I out you to the people will come after you. So it's a way of kind of building some kind of inner circle of trust. Now, I think that's probably very rational, um, but there has to be a psychological component to it as well. So, I thought that was an interesting perspective. What is all this distracting from? I can't even imagine. I know, that is a really interesting question. So, think about this, the 3,000,000 files that were put out there and the 30 names or whatever, 35 names that were redacted who are powerful people, and, of course, a lot of the victims' names are out there. There's still another half of this stuff that is not been put out, and how much worse is that stuff than this? I'm going to imagine that if we're seeing cannibalism references and murder and, open, really vile, um, sex trafficking of children, then there must be something even more hard to believe. Do you think Steve Bannon really wants to be president? I think Steve Bannon probably knows he can never be president, and that's why he supports people like Trump. Um, who would vote for Steve Bannon? Um, Now, if we went into this full-on fascist regime situation, I don't even think Steve Bannon could take over the Trump legacy because I don't even think people in that inner circle really like Steve Bannon that much. Um, he's also kind of, I think personally, he really reads as an alcoholic. He's got the gin blossom nose, and I think people don't trust him. But I mean, he's one of those people that you would see in a court who is sort of a secret advisor. But I don't know that he could ever be president. But I think he's certainly power hungry. So yeah, I thought it was okay. So let me go back here and see if there's any questions. So okay, it's okay. So any sense of how the kidnapping of Nancy will go? And this is yeah, that's a good question. And who actually did it? I haven't been paying attention to it in normal ways. There's too many things going on with my kid right now, so I have been kind of mostly focused on her. But I heard that I've heard various different things about that from my husband, who's been kind of keeping track of it. That basically, she was abducted. Then there was some kind of talk that there was a ransom, or that it was someone from the family who had ransomed her. Does anybody know any of those stories? Hey, Jim, do you know? I think you're the one. James, do you know who anything else about that story? I'll throw some cards on it. Do you have a question about it? Like I can, like if she'll be returned. I mean, I it makes you wonder. I mean, my first thought was like, Don Lemon is arrested. Um, Savannah was in the Epstein files. Savannah Guthrie, the woman whose mom was taken. Is that what you're saying, Jeff? Brother-in-law. That's right. What's the time to read the Super Bowl? These are good questions. Okay. Um, should gathered all the information, continue to conceal the truth for the survivors. Yes, I agree. Okay, so question: Savannah was in the. Okay, so taken set last Saturday night. Ransom note to media outlets, including TMZ. No proof of life. Yeah, I don't know. That's the thing. I'm kind of when I feel into it, I can't feel her. Like, yeah, I wonder too if it is some kind of like. So Don Lemon gets arrested, then this journalist's mother gets taken. It feels to me like it's intimidation. Denise, the Native American Blackfoot Nation prophecies that there will be a unification of Native Americans and Black people, leading a bloody revolt against the government. Do you see this as a probability, or have we averted that? Okay, that's a good question, Kevin. And I'll answer that too. Okay, so Savannah Guthrie, like when I feel into the mother, it feels like, I mean, let me just throw the cards on this. Will she be returned, basically, alive? This is asked that question. Will she come back alive, or is she passed? Hmm, that's interesting. So I asked the question, is she going to come back alive? And I got some cards here that indicate this is a no, and that there's already it's so this card is really significant. I don't know if you guys read the tarot, but this card, the 7 of Swords, always indicates lying, stealing, manipulation, but often it's really about lying because it's swords represent the mind and communication because they're an air sign. So this is about lying. This in the middle card is about it's like a business situation, right? And then you've got the 9 of Swords. Obviously, her family is grief stricken, and the answer to this is no. She's not going to be returned alive. And I have a feeling that I don't know. My first instinct when I heard the story was that she was probably killed. Maybe, and that this sort of ransom thing was bullshit. And whoever killed her was sort of torturing the family and maybe trying to get some money out of it. That was my instinct. Now, I hope I'm wrong. I really do because I feel really bad for the people who had the family. But like you said, I haven't really followed the story, but if they have shown no proof of life, then that kind of implies that they don't have any proof of life. And my sense of it was that it was pretty immediate. Like, I don't even think she was ever, like, like I said, I feel like I felt like an end kind of energy, like the stop. And so whoever is doing this is kind of toying with them, and maybe that's um, another. I also think it's very suspicious that she's a journalist, and I kind of feel like, and I know this sounds insane, but my first thought was to like maybe this is another way to intimidate the press. I mean, and I'm not saying that this is necessarily directly related, but I wouldn't put it past. Um, I want to put past the Trump administration to do something like this. Trump regime, I should say, because they're not an administration. Okay, so professional job to take out a doorbell recorder of the house. Oh, okay, you got some info, Jennifer. Let me see if you have more. Okay, professional job to take out the doorbell recorder off the house. Highly thought out. Had to be someone who knew her, knew the house, or was watching her for some time. I doubt she is alive. That's exactly right. I don't know the details, but that's interesting because that was my feeling was that it wasn't some random person and that she was targeted and targeted because she was the mother of the journalist, and it felt like to me it was um I don't know, I don't get the feeling that it's I kind of felt like it was someone who was trying to intimidate um the family. That's the feeling I got. So what that means, I don't know. Is it some kind of perverted person who just hates this family or whether it's something more, I don't know that for sure. Uh, but I definitely felt like she was killed probably on scene, like, and that her body was taken. That's the feeling I got about it. So maybe in the abduction process, she was murdered, and um, I get the feeling that she wasn't around that long after that event happened. Um, I don't know if her body. That's a good question. Will her body be found? I feel her I do kinda get the feeling she's in spirit. So, I think I think her body might be found at some point, and I guess that might but I don't know if it's gonna be anytime in the immediate future. It feels like, I mean, I don't know anything about this, but I'm being shown, did she live on the East Coast, this woman, or where does anybody know where she lived? I guess I could Google it, but, um anybody know anything else about this and where she was actually living? Because I see, like, she lived in Arizona. Okay, because I get the sense that there's, like, I get the feeling she was buried in a wooded area and that her body is there. She was she was meds to stay alive, and they found her meds. Okay. Tucson, Arizona. Okay. So, that's interesting because I've been to Tucson. It's so the area that I'm being shown has a lot of trees, which would mean it was either kind of closer to, what's that place called, that everyone loves? There's that new agey place, or it's kind of further closer to the mountains where there's a bunch of, there's a bunch of forests. So I get the feeling that she may have yeah, I think she's in the wilderness, like her body is in the wilderness in some kind of wooded area. That's what I so Savannah interviewed many of the survivors way back, and she is in the files. Ah, I think it is done for scaring people, just like yes, exactly, Mary. That's exactly what I got. This was some kind of message to journalists, like we can we can kill your family. That was my first instinct. Yeah, Sedona. Thank you, Jennifer. Yeah, Sedona or Flagstaff potentially because the, the area I'm seeing has a lot of trees and not a lot of people. Um, yeah. So yeah, you've got Lemon, Don Lemon. You've got this situation shortly thereafter. This seems too coincidental to me. Mount Lemmon, Tucson, Arizona area. I don't know. I don't know the area well enough to tell you that, but all I can see are trees, and it's not that far away from some kind of there are houses, but there's just a thick grove of trees, a thick kind of forest of trees. I think there's also like, there's, there is a house not that far away, so maybe she was taken to this place and and killed on the way or there, but, I don't feel like she's alive. Uh, Flagstaff is woodsy too, yeah. So I don't think she would be still in Tucson unless there is a forest near Tucson. It feels like it's not that far from that's what I'm saying, like, someplace like Flagstaff or Sedona where there is a population, but it's still kinda rural, and there's a lot of forest. That's where it feels like she's at. Um, okay, is close to Tucson. Okay, I'll have to look at some pictures of that area. I might be able to identify it if I look on Google. I've done that before, kinda look on Google Earth and see if I can find the area where I'm seeing. I'll do that later and see if I can find anything. If I do, I'll put it up on I'll write a piece about it and show some pictures. Will the Trump regime be overthrown? What's the Trump's lie about asking cities they want ICE help so he'll stay out? Well, that's Jeff, that's just a ruse, I think. I mean, that's just a way to get them to comply with his trying to um, steal the election coming in 2026, right? Um, and I don't believe that he'll stay out just because he says that. I mean, you can't trust anything the man says. So, okay, will Trump regime be overthrown? And that's a very good question. And I will try to return to that one. Savannah. Okay, so there was another question back here. I was going to try to answer. All right. Yeah, so it was Kevin's question about the Native American Blackfeet Nation. There will be a unification of Native Americans and Black people leading a bloody revolt against the government. That's an interesting question. I'm going to throw cards on that. Great. Interesting. Okay. So, um, I guess my when my first feel into this was I feel like that prophecy was very much about the time frame that that was set in, and I think that certainly Black people and white people and people on the left, and I think eventually people on the right, and I know the Native American community, because of their sort of forced Christianization, many of them actually voted for Trump, and are actually, unfortunately, many of them are kind of MAGA people. I think less so now that some of them have been ICE has gone on to different, different tribal lands and taken people. So the answer to the question was a no, that's not going to happen that way. But I think it's the framing of the question that maybe like that specific thing. I think that it's true. I'm not saying that it's not 100% wrong. It looks like there's truth to it, but I think it's more about different people altogether kind of coming together. And I think at the time that prophecy was probably, put forward was, really against the sort of the white people's, the sort of the genocide against the Native people and the enslavement of African American people, and I think it was a way to, I think it was probably related to that more. I think it was sort of a pushback against that. So what I think happening now, and not to say that that isn't gonna be a piece of it, look at the Black Panthers. They're coming back out of the woodwork and kind of making a sort of and people are kind of feeling like they're gonna help to lead the way in terms of how to fight this oppression. So I don't think it's wrong. I just think that maybe it's not just that, if that makes sense. Okay. Um, so the other question was there's something about who do you want to didn't want her to cover the Olympics. Okay. There was another question about let me see. What's the Trump line about asking cities if they want help? Okay. Okay, maybe I'll check out Mount Lemon. Okay. What? Did you see the ICE officer who kicked the dog in a raid? Wow. No, but that's not surprising. They're all really sick individuals. Princess Diana Files is not supposed to be open until 2082. Wow. It is rumored she found out about Prince Andrew and the young girls and she was going to spill the beans. Is this true? Huh. Well, let's ask that question then. Um, and then, mm, well, no, I don't think that's why she was killed. It looks like it had to do with these cards. Okay, these are the yes cards of why she was murdered, and the no cards are not. So again, the lion card. I think it had to do with her influence as a mother and who she was kind of involved with being unacceptable to the royal family. That was the original thought. Now, I mean, that would have been what early '90s when she was murdered. I can't remember when she had the accident. Is that right? I can't even remember. It's so long ago now. But not to say that she. I don't think she. Let's see. Does she know about that? It doesn't look like she knew about Andrew's. Maybe she had heard. I don't know how much, but the cards keep saying no. She didn't really know about all of this stuff going on with Chris Andrew, 1997. So that was pretty late. Um, so I don't think it looks to me like she wasn't clued into all of the stuff having to do with him. Not to say that maybe she hadn't heard some kind of rumors but I don't get the feeling she had direct looking at this that she had direct knowledge. It looks like there was maybe some talk about him being like that, but I don't think that was a primary motivation for killing her. But maybe it was a secondary one. Um, Anything will come out in the Clintons testifying before Congress? That's an interesting question. Let's see about that. I don't know why they refused to do that to begin with. That was, they should have just done it. Okay, okay, okay. Well, it says yes. There will be things that come out. Um, there will be things that come out in that. Some of the patterns of behavior. It looks like. some of the money stuff. Um, so some clarity will come from this. Maybe even some of the financial kind of uh, intertwine. Epstein's financial situation and how he got his money. Some of that looks like. Um, that looks like that's mostly what's going to come out about. And maybe even some issue, like some information about the girls and their background, some of the victims and how they were um, cultivated. I think Epstein was more powerful than we all thought. Did you hear about how they made Epstein Island compliant with the Americans? No. So Stephen Hawkins could go, wow. Alrighty. Someone's told Diane, don't go poking your nose. Okay. Well, that makes sense. I think that's, you know, um, the cards seem to indicate that the main motivation was her new relationship. But I'm not saying that's not a secondary motivation or that she wasn't a shit stir, and that she didn't represent a wild card and they didn't know what she was going to do or what she would say. And that could have also been a reason. So if she did know anything about that, she probably would have said something. I mean, she wrote that tell all book. So about her husband having an affair and all that stuff. So I mean, it's not like they could control her really. So I could see where that would be another motivation. Her friend said she had papers about war and the business bandit she was called. So I've been, huh, interesting. So yeah, I mean, she was kind of like a weird outsider within that situation. So I think that was the real reason she was killed. Princess Diana files, not, okay, yeah. All right, so there was another question here about, I hate to answer that because, so the Trump administration being overthrown. So, that's a complicated question, I think, because, and I hate to, I don't want to get too into this because I feel like I don't want to get ahead of my skis here, but I think I don't get the feeling and I don't see a political solution to this problem that we're in. I'm just going to say that, okay? I think it's going to require, and this goes back to what Kevin was saying, you know, that, two different groups are going to unite to sort of fight. I feel like we're going to see a lot of people getting upset, feeling they have nothing to lose, and feeling like um, we're going to find different. We're not going to. I don't feel like we're going to find strategies to overcome this from people in power themselves. I'm not saying there aren't people in power. There aren't democratic socialists who put forward a plan or a way forward politically that could mitigate a lot of this and change this. But let's think back to history here a little bit. So we've had that an increasing move towards more and more democratic socialism, especially since the 2008 financial crisis. You've got Bernie Sanders, you've got AOC, you've got Elizabeth Warren, you've got a lot of people, sort of little pieces of little tiny sort of old FDR style Democrats, sort of sprinkled in to the neoliberal Democrats. But think about what's happened to most of those people. They've been really kept out. They've been silenced for the most part. Bernie really the Democrats did not want him to win the presidency. They didn't want him to actually run even. And in both cases, as he ascended, they basically pulled the legs out from underneath his candidacy. And you have to ask yourself a question. Why would they do that? Why would Nancy Pelosi refuse to investigate and turn over the George Bush administration Jr. To The Hague for war crimes when they broke international law and tortured people? Why would, we had this repeated sort of appearance that, as people used to say, the Democrats are bringing knives to a gunfight. Why are they so compliant? And why are they not compliant when it comes to basically keeping people like AOC? Like Nancy Pelosi famously disliked AOC and kept her out of a lot of good committees and really kind of kept her sidelined. Why would the neoliberal Democrats do that? Because the neoliberal Democrats, which are the majority, they're like 75, 85% of the Democratic Party. They may not be as actively evil and extreme as the Republicans, but really the neoliberal Democrats are pretty much where the Reagan Republicans were back in the 80s. That's pretty far right. They're corporate Democrats. They take money from corporate PACs. They are beholden to corporate donors, and they make a lot of money, and they get special privilege. They have insider information, and they're pretty fat and happy. So the people that are stirring this up and trying to get some kind of equality or restore the democracy to some degree are being sidelined and have been for the last at least 20 years. Right. So in the 90s, I don't even think there were any any Democrats that were even leaning that direction. They were full on trickle down economics, neoliberal Democrats. I mean, they embraced the Reagan economic model, which is the problem that we're in right now, which is massive income inequality. So, you know, within the system, we've seen over and over and again that people vote for, and now people are voting in massive amounts for Mandani, and there was a recent vote that happened in New Jersey. I don't remember the person's name, but also a socialist Democrat, social democratic socialist who won. People are starting to wake up to the fact the, that the Democrats, the neoliberals, have just been paying lip service to some of the things. We're going to reform the healthcare system. They didn't. They made it. I mean, at this point, it's worse than it even was 25 years ago. Now, it partially, you know, the Affordable Care Act, which Obama put forward, was supposed to be sort of a bridge to universal health care, but it's been slowly kind of fucked with by the Republicans, and the Democrats haven't really provided enough resistance to that. And now you have the situation where the Affordable Care Act is completely eviscerated. Once you took out the requirement that everybody had to buy health insurance, which I think was that's very corporate oriented, and it's not a good plan, but it was supposed to be a band-aid to something else. And that never happened. It never got to that next thing. It was basically just a boon for insurance companies in the beginning, really. So everyone has to buy insurance. So the pool of people is sort of spread around between healthy and unhealthy people. Once the Republicans took that out, insurance kind of was like a table without a leg, and it started kind of like tottering around. Now insurance premiums are so high, and the insurance, not only is insurance insane, but the deductibles and the coverage itself is terrible. Doctors are having a hard time getting paid even. Many of them are leaving the profession because it's just so messed up. So that you have this our healthcare system is on the verge of collapse, truly. And it's now so expensive that's the subsidies kind of covered that up for the last 5 years. But if you look on a plan on the for the insurance, like for Obamacare, it is the bad coverage. It starts for a family of a few people for like $3,000 a month. Now you can, if you make, if you're making like less than $50,000 a year and you're almost eligible for Medicaid or Medicare, yeah, it comes down because of the subsidies. But the reason it's so expensive is because only people who are really ill bother to buy it because you're not, there's no requirement. So the whole thing just fell apart once that happened. And nobody's talking about that because the Republicans are in power. They're the ones who just kind of eviscerated it. And they did that to make it so unpopular that they could destroy it. And that's what's happening. So the little bit of help that the American people got, that's been ruined by the Republicans. So what's going to happen here? I think if we would have, over the last 20 years, if people would have been awake to understanding that the Democrats were doing what they were doing, which people became very sort of team sport oriented. I'm on team blue, I'm on team red, and team blue is great, team red is terrible. And we became very divided and conquered by this whole corporate plutocratic cabal. Okay, that's how I see it. And basically, the Democrats, many of them were on board with this. I mean, there's like you can look back in the last 20 years and see almost as many Democrats who were, you know, put in jail for graft and, and all kinds of different. I mean, I don't know how many governors of Illinois ended up in jail for, you know, all kinds of schemes and illegal things they were doing. And they're Democrats. Okay. So I'm not saying that all Democrats are bad. There is a very tiny wing of the Democratic Party that has the potential to shift this politically, but they have been disempowered and disemboweled continuously by the other part, the majority of the Democratic Party. So while we need to go out and vote for the Democratic Social, and personally, I think we should just have a new party called the Democratic Socialist Party and fuck the Democrats personally, and just get rid of that name because it's ridiculous. At this point, it's just, it's like what the Republicans were like 40 years ago. So if we go out and vote in mass, that's a message and we have to do that. But do I think, and unless we have a bunch more people who are progressive, democratic socialists running, and we did not have this whole, the other problem we have is that the Trump administration or regime is already trying to pull all the normal tactics of, you know, they've changed the laws around voting by mail. They've purged the voter rolls. The ICE situation where they've been taking pictures of people and labeling them terrorists. They're disabling those people to vote. Okay, they're already trying to game the system. They went into Georgia and they're trying to find ways, I believe, to fix the 2026 election and beyond. Now, if people came out in massive numbers, if every eligible voter voted against this, they might have a hard time really pulling that off, right? But you think about Putin's Russia. People vote, and Putin always wins by 95%, no matter what. And that is where we're headed with this regime. That is what's happening. So will they be able to pull it off by 2026? Will they be able to game the system? I believe they already stole the last election. I really truly believe that there was voter fraud going on there on their end. I really believe that. I'm not saying that it wasn't close. It was close enough that they could pull it off. But I truly believe that was that Putin and Trump and Elon Musk pushed Trump over the top so he could win. And if that's already happened, because look, Trump does is talk about how the 2020 election was stolen. If he is saying that's something he's doing, that going forward, are we going to even have elections that we can trust? And already I feel like we can't. So what's going to happen? I think people are going to form coalitions and groups. I think a lot of this stuff is going to come out of the people who are protesting, the people online who are going to find community within and commonality. And we're starting to see that happen. I think people will emerge from that. And I think eventually people are going to um, not, protest and make their voices known. But I also think there's a military side of this too, where um, I believe our military will be divided. I believe a lot of people who have served and people who are serving will feel like this isn't what they signed up for. There's also talk that there might be a draft coming up. And if that happens, that will also push people to much more extreme resistance. I think what's happening is things are happening so fast that they're breaking people, and people are getting more and more upset. And eventually, as we see system collapse, people are going to feel like they have no choice but to kind of rise up and fight back. So, what do I think is going to happen? I think the people are going to overthrow this regime eventually. How fast it happens and how it happens, um, you know, remains to be seen in terms of how long people it takes people to wake up to what's going on. I think this year is a turning point. Um, all the planets in Aries coming up in the spring, and then the Uranus-Mars conjunction in Gemini opposing the moon of the Constitution signing chart, I think is a turning point. Some event, some series of events starting this spring, and maybe even sooner, starting in the next of this next period will push people to become more engaged and more extreme. And if what we're seeing with ICE, like I was saying last year, the budget for ICE, what we're seeing in cities like Minneapolis and Los Angeles and Chicago, I mean, this could be happening all at once, all over the place with the money that they've gotten. And if that is the case, the radicalizing of the people, if we see people getting radicalized and really being pushed to extremes in these cities, imagine what happens across the country if they do this in everybody's towns. It's not going to just be Minneapolis and Chicago and Los Angeles who are up in arms and fighting against this. It's going to be the whole country. And the violence that they are perpetrating and the aggression that is coming from them, um, you know, it's kind of like if you want to, when people normally take over, like fascist governments, they don't do it in a year. They kind of slowly build structures of fascism. Even Hitler, I mean, even the Hitler regime didn't try to do it in a year. I mean, granted, we have some of it broken down from Trump's first term, but he was relatively restrained in that term, which is how people were dumb enough to vote for him this time. Um, he was constrained by the people around him a little bit more, a lot more, I should say. So I feel like, they're pushing people so hard and so fast. You can't change someone's values in a year or 2 years. You can't get people used to, like, all of their rights being taken away from them. And I think at some point, we're seeing the stirrings of also the Second Amendment rights being stripped away from people. And once you start, First Amendment rights, the Fourth Amendment rights, then the Second Amendment rights, every group who relies on those rights, journalists, the First Amendment, regular people on the internet, the Fourth Amendment, people not being able to get into your house, search and seizure kind of stuff. Then you got the Second Amendment people who are the really extreme, you know, uh, militia people. And once he goes after that, which he'll have to if he really wants to lock down a regime of authoritarianism, at that point, that's sort of like the straw that breaks the camel's back, I think. And that is, I think, when things get really violent, in my opinion. And I don't know when that is coming, but I believe that you let loose those people and it becomes a whole different thing. Uh, it's not just peaceful resistance. And I do think that even the left is gonna be radicalized towards violence. And I know people can't imagine that, but the '60s had that. And even like Kevin's question, I mean, about, like that kind of ties into this. It's like you push people far enough where they see violence and they feel like there's only one way to stop violence, and that's to stop those people from committing acts of violence. This is that whole moral dilemma you get into with, like, how would we stop the Nazis without actually killing them? I mean, how do you stop people who are evil, basically? How do you stop evil? How do you stop a cancer from growing? You have to cut it out. You can't just talk nice to it and let hope it goes away. This is the kind of situation we're in with with where we're at, and I think people are waking up to that. I know a lot of people wanna have hope that we can solve this politically, and there is certainly no reason we shouldn't try everything we can to do that, but I honestly feel like we're way beyond that. I think people are being a little naive when they think that it's just gonna be a matter of voting out the people in Congress in 2026, and we're gonna just you don't think that the Trump administration I looked at this with my astrology class yesterday, and, we looked at this election as, like it looked to me like, yeah, the Democrats might win, even people might come out and vote in droves, and people will know that they should have won. But do you think that the Trump administration won't do something, like tie it up in courts or try to go after those people? I mean, you know what I'm saying? It's like, let's kind of and when it happens, it'll happen, and people will wake up to that fact too. So, I mean, I think I try not to get too far ahead because I know people I don't wanna destroy anybody's hope, and I certainly don't want people to not vote or, use their voices. I'm just saying, don't expect it to work. Where I think this is why we see in the chart this Mars-Uranus conjunction happening this summer, and then it returning again, within a just this is building, and then getting to a fever pitch in 2028 when people maybe get really afraid that he's gonna try to run again and, stay in power, and I think that's when it really gets to a whole other level. So, this is the beginning of people's waking up this year, and I think the Epstein files might be part of it. Trump has an occluded part of fortune this year this by the solar eclipse happening right on his part of fortune. He's got a big grand square, so he is a little behind the 8 ball right now, which is good. Um, but he still controls all the levers of power, and so um, while people are starting to see who he is and his ability to lie and cover him up the bullshit is been removed, the next problem of how to get him out of there and how to constrain him when no one will, that is a problem that's gonna take some time to solve. Okay. I've been blabbing for a long time here. Okay, and then I should probably go in the next few minutes. Okay, let's try to see if I can answer any questions. Putin's in the file, that makes sense. Working family party, but socialist is Chuck Schumer enables yeah, totally, Mila. I think the Republican Party needs to be renamed the neo-Nazi party. I agree. Putin is in the files, totally agree, Denise. Elon did it, and Trump said it. Okay, I don't know what that's in reference. Republicans and bad Dems really disenfranchise the socialist name. That's very true. It might get so bad that people will start to come around to reinstating our former programs Musk dismantled that helped the US. Yeah, Ellie, he needed someone to do all of this and rise the fall. Draft is coming, Jeff says. Okay, Kevin, we need a 7 days in May with a positive ending. Okay. Bonnie, ICE isn't getting their bonuses, ha ha ha, and over 80% of ICE said they won't proceed if they have to unmask. Well, they shouldn't unmask if they don't wanna be, tried at some point in the future, because what they're doing is, once this regime is overthrown, and I say that specifically because I don't think it's gonna be voted out. Once it's overthrown, all of those people and I mean everybody in this administration. I could see bad things happening, and these guys will be probably prosecuted. Now, the people in power, maybe worse things are there for them. I was worried about running out of time. Schumer is a Zionist. He works for Israel. That's true. Except Bastion Gorka says they take away guns. I agree with that. People in Colorado love their weapons. That's right. Texas is full of guns. Yep. Um, could the French Revolution have worked without the guillotine? Sure, sure. I mean, the guillotine was very dramatic, but a lot of revolutions end with the people who were the oppressors hanging from a wall, being shot, you know, having having very terrible things happen to them. And they know that. The people who are doing this, they know that. That's why Trump is building that big bunker, the ballroom, which is really a bunker. They're trying to insulate themselves from what they know they're pushing people to get crazy. Eventually, it will come for them. They know that. Uh, okay. Do you see the U.S. balkanizing on the other side of this? Political science predicts it would likely be the outcome. So you mean, Kaylee? Let me see. Are you talking about? Do you see the U.S. balkanizing on the other side of this? Political science predicts that would likely be the outcome. Can you be more specific about on the other side of this, and also um, any more information about that comment? I don't. Okay, they might win, but the chances of it going through are low. That's right. You just keeping it real, Denise. Thanks and smoke to get ticks. Someone we know. Thank you, Kevin. Not blowing smoke, sending much love. Okay, I agree, Kevin. How can they try all of them? Oh, well, I'm not saying they're going to try everyone. Who can overthrow? Who will run out of diapers quickly? Speaking to different regional countries. Okay, so are you talking, Kaylee, about the whole thing with Greenland and trying to consolidate power in the within the Americas? Is that what you're talking about? Because I'm not sure. Breaking into different regional countries, or you're talking about fascism, kind of. I'm confused. I'm sorry. I'm not sure. Or let's get the hell out of Georgia before the volcanizing begins. So, okay, I'm confused. Let me try to Google something. Um, okay, I see what you're saying. Um, well, I think they've kind of already done that, haven't they? I mean, they've already kind of broken the country apart. But I mean, at the end of all this conflict in the United States, you see us break the. Oh yeah, the U.S. breaking up. Okay, thank you. For being clear about that, because I think that's kind of already happened in a certain way. But so in the U.S. Constitution signing chart, where this ends up over the next 10 years is the sun does move into Gemini, and Gemini means two. It's a twin. So I think there is a chance that the U.S. could break in two. I'm not saying that 100%. So I think there's multiple possibilities, but one of them is that there is a divided United States. The other is that there's a collapsed state. I think a collapsed state is likely for a period of time, until we rebuild something. And when we rebuild it, uh, it could be two different places. I think that is very possible, or maybe more, depending on how it goes. So I'm not sure, like, I'm not sure if that's the case yet. I don't have I feel like it's very messy what's coming, and I think it's gonna be dependent on a lot of what we do now and how we deal with what's coming. Um, So, on the other side of that, I think the other problem I think I see besides this happening in the US is that there is a world war also that's gonna be coexisting with this war. And what that means, I think that double whammy happening, with a world war and a civil war happening simultaneously, honestly, my real gut instinct and the things I've seen isn't really, is more in line with city state kind of things, in the future, not a nation state at all. It's more it's okay, Kaylee, it's not your fault. Um, is is kind of like, is people living kind of more like they did a long time ago, like the native people, but with technology, not completely devoid of technology, but more like city states that are sort of, um, interconnected and have sort of, so I don't know that it's gonna like, on the full other side of this, I mean, I it feels like it's gonna be more communal and community oriented, and people are gonna be in sort of communities that of like-minded people, and they may sort of like an ancient kind of closer to that. So, um, closer to like how, if you think of Greece or something, or Rome, before it became the Roman Empire, different city states that are interconnected and do trade and have like some kind of overarching agreement, but are sort of run by the people. That's the kind of thing I've been seeing over and over again. That's kind of what happens in that book, Trees for the Forest, that I wrote a long time ago. Um, but in this case, I think it's not just two cities, not just two places, that was more of a metaphor what was going on right now. But it's more like different groups of people that form communities, and everybody is sort of held accountable. And I honestly think that that is the only way human beings can really have democracy and fairness and actually a sense of purpose is if we have smaller communities where we're all interconnected and we all have accountability. And I have a feeling that's eventually going to become what happens in a certain way. I don't know exactly what that means. If there'll be some overarching, United States that kind of like a federal government that kind of oversees all that. I'm not sure, but I definitely see that kind of being the result of all this. One of the most dystopian novels I've read, Colorado is either a natural territory or a safe haven, so I will wait to see if Colorado's well this. Yeah, right, into the KK roots. Yeah, it's like it's also it's the Stephen King, novel. It's like, what is it? The Stand. People go to Colorado or they go to Las Vegas. The evil people go to Las Vegas. The good ones go to Colorado. Okay, we're constantly back and forth between opposites, and I find it committed to. Let's hope it's a safe territory, Kevin. Yeah. Gotta go, folks. Okay, you guys. Yeah, I do too. So, everybody, have a great weekend. Blessings to all of you. Thanks for joining me. And I'm sorry it was kind of weird in the beginning where I was like waiting for it to connect. I didn't see you guys there. So, I hope you guys have a great weekend. And I think this week is actually coming up is Valentine's Day. So, I hope you have a great Valentine's Day. And blessings to all of you. You're always in my prayers and thoughts. All right. God bless all of you. All right. Take care.